From Gina on Facebook, what do we do about the disinformation that is clearly going to outlast Trump and his administration? How do we fight against that?
Well, this is such an important issue, and it just goes to show why our activism it can take so many different forms. And one of these things that we're really going to have to talk about is big tech. Their disinformation would not be at the scale that it is today without Mark Zuckerberg, and that's just a fact. If it wasn't for the destructive decisions of Facebook, we would not be dealing with this problem on the scale that we are dealing with today. And it's going to take it's going to take a lot of conversations and policymaking for us to truly solve this problem, because there's no one clear silver bullet in combating the situation, because the cat is somewhat out of the bag. But there are ways that we can address it. There are platforms that have already started to experiment with policies and ways to address misinformation and disinformation. But also we have to talk about antitrust and how a lot of these tech companies have turned into monopolies, which allows them and gives them the leeway and liberty to spread this kind of disinformation. Facebook's determination to be a platform and a publisher and a vending and a marketplace has allowed it to concentrate power to a very large degree. So the fact that it single-handedly had an enormous disastrous impact on journalism and weakened the environment of journalism, because strong journalism was weakened to a certain point. That was also a contributing factor to disinformation taking root in the way that it has. And so there are so many different contributing factors to this, but I think we're going to have to look at antitrust policy. And I think we're going to have to look at the actual practices that these companies are engaging in.
I'm going to ask the last question. As women, we've both had to persevere and persist in very male-dominated fields where sexism and toxic masculinity are sadly still very present. And it just breaks my heart to see the through line of gender discrimination from when I was coming of age to the horrendous example of disrespect we saw this summer when you were accosted on the Capitol steps, and you just dealt with it. Such a mensch you are. How have you dealt with this kind of behavior, and what do you think needs to happen to change it?
The first thing that I think is fabulous about it is that women, we are growing in our power and in our independence. And even just politically, men can't get away with mistreating us the way that they used to without political consequences. And so do men still treat us horribly? Yes. Do they still treat us misogynistically? Yes. But guess what? One of the biggest reasons that the Republican Party is so underwater right now is because women have turned their back on them. They've been disgusted with how the Republican Party has treated, marginalized, and abused women in public policy and in their demeanor and in their conduct. And so the more powerful that a woman and also just gender expanding electorate becomes, just the less politically tenable it's going to be a public misogynist. And so, I think that's something that is important, but also it's to flex our power. The whole reason why women and gender fluid people are so picked apart and criticized for every tiny decision that we make is to bully us into submission. And so what was important to me about that moment with Representative Yoho this summer was that I wanted to change a norm. And the norm was that when you're abused in a workplace and a man is disgusting to you, you're supposed to suck it up, because for some reason, the act of aggression is not a problem, but speaking up about it is. And it was important to me for us to give a consequence to misogynists. And I knew that the institution I was with probably wasn't going to give him a real consequence. I knew that our party probably wasn't going to censure him or really do anything to that degree, but I knew that I could publicly embarrass him and expose him for who he actually is to the world. And we can do it in a way that is not complaining, stand in your power. It's not, he did this to me, but you can stand in your power. And really, people with poor character just need a little bit of sunlight, and oftentimes that does a lot of the work. And so I think it's important that everyone out there understand that you can stand up for yourself, and standing up for yourself is not selfish, it's not complaining, and it's not petty, because what you're doing is that when you stand up, you break the chain of abuse that person would have likely continued for the rest of their lives. And so you're not just standing up for yourself, you're standing up for every single person that would have been harmed if you didn't stand up.
Yeah. Well, we all have to learn from your example. Representative, thank you so much for joining us today. You've taught me a lot in this hour. I have so many new things to think about. Thank you for your incredible work on the Green New Deal and for being the kind of leader that this country so desperately needs. You're a true role model for people of all ages. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Jane. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that you are and have been a role model to me and so many other people. And it's not just because of your work and your art, but it's because of your commitment, your lifelong commitment to activism and to actual grassroots solidarity. And people know you're an OG. People know that this is not just like what is cool, this is who you are. And I know that I would not have the rights that I have today if you haven't and weren't out there working for them, at the time. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative. As you all know out there, we're in the home stretch of this election, just 11 days to go. And although we shattered our original goal of contacting 2 million voters, our work is not over. So we have to keep pushing. We've set a new goal, contacting 2.5 million voters by election day, and we need your help. Join one of our volunteer teams at firedrillfriday.com/vote and help us turn out a landslide of voters this election. Take care of each other during the next week. Breathe deep, meditate if you can. I know there's a lot of tension that we're all holding right now as we wait out these remaining 11 days. And the more you can work to make it turn out right, the better you'll feel, trust me. We have the power to make changes, right? And we need to build a better world. So I'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.